We're in Nuremberg, biggest hunting fair in Europe, and I have a very important person sitting beside me.
Hello, I'm Laurens Hoedemakeriga. I'm the president of FACE, the European Federation for National Hunting Associations.
So you're new
Yes,
here, like kind of old, but kind of new.
Kind of old, kind of new. I was in the board of FACE. I've been a treasurer and a vice president. And last year, October, I was elected president of FACE.
So a few months have passed. You've been already on this train for a couple of months. So what do you see are the biggest challenges at the moment?
Well, actually, I think that we have a lot of opportunities, not challenges, but opportunities. There is a new political landscape in Brussels with a political climate which is much more favorable to hunting and hunters.
That's good news.
That is good news, yes, of course.
Because last term of the EU Parliament, it was quite depressing. So you're giving really good news.
Yes, it is. But we need to seize this opportunity. Like any good hunter, if you have a good opportunity, you have to take it. So we don't sit still. We take these opportunities, and then we see some new legislation coming our way.
So favorable for hunters in what way?
Well, first example of the hard work that FACE has been doing for the last few years, and that paid off right now, is downlisting of the wolf in the European legislation and under the Berne Convention.
That was a huge success.
That is a huge success, but step by step, now the implementation in national legislation needs to take place, so we can manage wolves more according to the local needs and the local scales. But
there was this very big anti-hunting NGO campaign saying that now you are going to shoot out all the European wolves and so on. But that's not true. That's complete fake news, as they say.
Yes, it is fake news, but that's what they would like the politicians to believe. The fact is that it's not free game, for wolves. It is the downlisting allows national governments and national legislation to adopt wolf management to the local needs. So,
people, hunters on local scale, they don't understand what's FACE all about because you kind of sit in Brussels, you talk the language they mostly don't understand. In simple words, why FACE is important to common hunter? How does it reflect on their day-to-day hunting situations?
Well, what you need to realize is that about 80% of the laws that are applicable to hunting in each and every country in Europe are coming from Brussels. And they're either direct laws or they are instructions from Brussels to implement something in your national law. So 80% of the laws concerning hunting, concerning dog welfare, concerning animal welfare, concerning weapons, concerning ammunition are coming from Brussels. And there we are fighting for the hunters' interests in these new laws.
How you say fighting? Not with the guns?
No, very much not with the guns, but with words and with facts. We want the policy on hunting and on weapons and on ammunition to be fact-based. And therefore we have an office of 15 people, 16 people now working very hard. They're ecologists, they're lawyers, they're lobbyists, they're communication professionals, and they provide the people of the European Commission and of the European Parliament with the facts that are there and which legislation, which law should be based upon.
Just one example, so you understand on what level all these things are happening. For example, now they are talking about pet dog welfare.
Yeah.
Before FACE got on board and started really to work with this issue, there were some weird suggestions. For example, that you have to transport your hunting dog in plus 25 or something like that.
I would like to see you try that with huskies,
like us,
and see if that is very good for their health and their welfare. It's not. So that is a fact that we provided, that these animals are actually bred and trained and housed under these conditions, and that putting such a requirement in a law would be very bad for animal welfare. That's the facts that we bring to the table.
So, for example, you wake up one morning and there's suddenly legislation that tells that you have to drive your Leica around in plus 25 degrees. And if you don't do it, then you get fined. Yeah. These are small things that are taken out of projects of legislation on the way that basically normal local hunters never hear about. Yeah. what they see in the end is ready legislation that is more or less usable.
Yeah, and you need to realize that it takes 3 to 5 years for an idea in Brussels to become a law in a national country, and we are at the forefront. We are closely working or engaging with the people of the European Commission, which are starting with new ideas for new laws or with changes in legislation. We're working with the people in the European Parliament, which are evaluating legislation and which are bringing up also new ideas. And so we are very early in the process involved, so we can bring the facts to the table to make sure that legislation, law for hunting, for weapons, for ammunition, for dogs, etc., is actually doing something in practice which should be, manageable and workable.
Big question now, again, renewed, is the ban of lead ammunition.
Yeah.
But that's a absolute total ban of lead ammunition. What's on the table now?
The proposal from the European Commission is that eventually lead shall be banned from hunting ammunition. And for some types of ammunition that could be faster and it is easier workable. For example, the large caliber rifle ammunition, it is not too difficult to replace lead with, for example, copper. For smaller calibers, that is much more difficult. So 22 long rifle, nowadays it's not possible to phase out lead. And that is something that we bring to the table, saying if you make this legislation and you force us to take out lead, you will end up with ammunition that is less effective and that is worse for animal welfare, for example. So that's something we bring to the table there. And then there's the big discussion on lead, phasing out lead from the buckshot, from pellets, from cartridges. And there's also a big discussion on whether or not that should be done or could be done with exemptions for shooting ranges, rifle ranges and shotgun ranges.
But one thing I can't understand is that there's an exemption for this for military use. And if you compare the amount of ammunition they use and the amount of ammunition the hunters use, why are we the bad guys?
I don't think that we're the bad guys. I think that the big difference is that in general, if you look at shotgun cartridges, then it would be logical to phase out lead when we use it in wetlands, because then lead pellets can be eaten by water birds, and then they could become toxic. With the large caliber rifle ammunition, that is, then lead could come into the carcass, and the carcass we eat, and that is a difference between hunting and military. So there are subtle differences why it might be reasonable to phase out lead from the hunting ammunition, but it should be done gradually, step by step, allowing the industry to adapt, to come up with alternatives which are workable. I'm from the Netherlands. We have phased out lead in shotguns 30 years ago, but it went so fast that the first few years we actually had lead shot or alternatives to lead shot, which were very bad. So you should take it step by step.
So what is the thing that hunters can actually do to help phase?
Is to become a member of their local hunting community, their local hunting club, their national hunting association, to support the National Hunting Association, and to make sure that the National Hunting Association supports FACE, their European Federation. And by doing so, by having as many hunters as possible support the work of their National Hunting Association and have as many national hunting associations support the European Hunting Federation, we are as strong as possible. And then in the next 5 years, we can really make very big progress and we can make things much better for hunters.
By the way, FACE is on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook.
Yes.
Follow, like, share.
Follow, like, and share, please.
Laurens, you're also a hunter. You're not like from another industry.
No.
What's your latest hunting experience or some adventure? Just share some good emotions.
Yeah, my latest hunting experience, actually I came back yesterday from a week hunting trip with my son. And we went to the United Kingdom, in the south of the UK, where we hunted roe deer. We tried to hunt fallow deer, but there weren't as much. So he got a few roe deer. He shot his first pigeons. We went on a pigeon shoot, which was great fun. So just father and son, friend of mine there, the dogs with us. It was fantastic.
Sounds perfect.
Yes, it is.
Some short message to the hunters.
Well, basic message is, together we're strong. Yeah? So we should be united. We should stand together, and we should work together to promote hunting and to fight for a Europe which is rich in biodiversity and hunting opportunities. Together we can. So I'm counting on your support. Thank you very much.